So from about October to, say, January, we're pretty much just stuffing our faces full of food. Yeah, we are. And we're just okay with it most of the time. Today, Chef Jennifer Anderson with Wildfish Seafood and Grill is here to show us a low-fat pumpkin muffin recipe that's going to ease our guilty conscience, but also fill our bellies with something really, really delicious. So it's good to have you in the kitchen.
Thanks. It's great to be here. You know, one of the things I like about this recipe, Stephanie, is it's things that, for the most part, except for the pumpkin, you're really going to have it at home. So you're probably not going to spend a lot of money getting a bunch of ingredients in to make something, which I know is good for the home cook. You know, you don't want to bring in a bunch of stuff, then you have these open cans and you can't do anything.
You're like, what do I do with them now?
Exactly.
So here's our ingredients.
Here's our ingredients. We're going to do a little bit of flour. Here we have 2 3/4 cup. You know, when you're doing flour at home, especially for baking, it's really important that you're spooning it and then leveling it off. If you're just taking a big scoop in, it's going to pack that flour and you're going to end up with it being dry.
It's all about the measurements.
It's all about the measurements. Baking's very technical. So we've got a cup of sugar. I know that may seem like a lot, but we're going to get about 18 muffins out of this. Oh, so you're talking, you know, a tablespoon and a half of sugar in each muffin. So it's really not that much. We're going to add our cinnamon and cloves in there for some good spices. Obviously, we know those are definitely the spices of the season. As well as some...
I love a good spice.
You love good spice. Baking powder, baking soda, and a little bit of iodized salt.
All right.
Okay. And that's going to be our dry mix. And I just actually whisk it together. A lot of times you'll see in recipes where they tell you to sift it together. I think a simple, easy way is just really to whisk it together, mix in all the baking soda, baking powder, and your seasoning. Okay. So, and we're going to do our wet mix in the other bowl. What I like about this is you're going to use...
Let me switch this one in front of you.
We're going to use 1 whole egg, and then we're actually also going to use an egg white. So you're cutting down a little bit on that fatty
that's a
yolk.
fat thing?
Yes.
Okay.
So that helps in that low-fat part of it. We're just going to whisk that a little bit so it's broken up with the rest of our ingredients.
I've seen some recipes, I don't know if you have, where you... put applesauce in place of, what is it, butter?
In place of, you know, usually you can use it in place of milk or yogurt or those kind of things. You know, I have a cookbook at home that's called In the Sweet Kitchen. It's probably the best one they own. It has a huge section for baking ingredient substitutions.
Yeah.
So it's really great. You know, one I find a lot that you'll use in low-fat cooking often is buttermilk. But buttermilk, a lot of people don't have that at home. And you can make it very simply by using milk with a little bit of either lemon juice or distilled vinegar.
Oh, I think I did read that at one point.
Yeah, so it has, you know, cool little things like that that you may not know off the top of your head. So
for this recipe, we've got the 1 egg, that 1 egg white, in addition to it, some pumpkin
puree. You know, if you're really ambitious, you can make your own pumpkin puree at home, or you can simply just buy it. You know, the pumpkins that you buy in the store, or I like to use a red curry squash. Just roast it, and if you put it in Cuisinart you have at home or something like that to puree it, then you have your own homemade puree if you don't want to take that extra step. So we actually have a little bit of fat-free sour cream. I don't think the flavor is going to be much different than a full-fat sour cream. It's going to be a little bit more loose.
I'm surprised by the sour cream.
Yeah, sour cream, a little fat-free milk. A little bit of vegetable oil. We've got a 1/4 cup here. So again, like that sugar, it may seem oil. How is that low fat? But it's a really small amount. It's just going to help our moisture. And then some vanilla in it as well.
I love vanilla. But you know what? It's so tricky. Even though you love it, if you put too much, you're going to hate it.
You're going to hate it. That's why, you know, baking's just one of those things. You can't, you know, we're cooking, you can say, oh, I want to put a pinch of this and a pinch of that. You can't really do that with baking. It's so much more technical, especially when you're adding things like that baking soda and baking powder. And
my last disaster was a homemade ice cream recipe that I did in one of those old school, like, you know, wooden kettles. And I was like, oh, the vanilla smells so good, and it came out, and my son
was not good.
Was not about that. So we've got the wet, we've got the dry. We're going to mix them together.
We're going to mix them together. I like to create a little bit of a well in the center. You don't want to over mix it, so that kind of, I think, helps in that because you have all your wet ingredients right in the middle of your dry. Really easy to fold them together and prevent that over mixing to it. So
while you continue to do that, I want to get a shot of the finished product right there. That is what it's going to look like in the end. What did you top that off with? Just some...
a little streusel. We'll make that coming up. A very simple little streusel. It's going to have some almonds in it, a little bit of brown sugar, flour, and a little bit of butter.
Ooh, cannot wait. All right, well, you mix away.
I'll mix away.